I'm happy that you are here with me today, and today is our topic number 15. So today we will talk about conditionals. We will discuss 4 main types of conditional sentences, and also we will practice some listening with you, and we will discuss some tips and practice as always. So I hope you are doing fine today, and I hope that you are ready to start. And let's start with some grammar. So now, let's look at some examples and let's just read the sentences. If I go to school, I have 5-6 lessons. If I study hard, I'll pass the ЗНО with flying colors. If I had more time, I would prepare better for the ЗНО exams. And if I had attended all English classes, I wouldn't have missed that grammar topic. So let's look at all these sentences. They are all very similar, and we call them conditional sentences. And you can see that all the sentences, they start with if, and they have 2 parts. So we can say that all these examples, they have an if clause, and they have a result clause. So we speak about some conditions because they are conditional sentences, and we say that we must complete. So we must complete a condition, and then we will be able to have a result. Тобто в умовних реченнях в нас завжди є умова. Ви бачите, що умовні речення складаються завжди з 2 частин. Це частинка з if clause, і частинка результат цієї дії. Тобто ми говоримо про якусь умову, яка має бути виконана, щоб отримати певний результат. And so you can see that all the sentences, they are similar, they have the same structure, but there is a big difference between them. So you can see that we use different tenses, different grammar in each of them. And so let's try to revise. Let's think which types of conditional sentences we have in English. So let's look at the first example. If I go to school, I have 5-6 lessons, and I'm waiting for your ideas to the chat. What type of conditional sentence it is? Okay, so please put your answers to the chat. What is the type of the conditional sentence in the first sentence? If I go to school, I have 5-6 lessons. And that is, okay, so waiting for some more seconds for your answers. And that is 0. Yeah, you're right, that is 0 conditional. Then the next example, if I study hard, I'll pass the ЗНО with flying colors. So what type of conditional sentence is number 2? And so that is really easy to guess even if you don't know the answer. That will be first conditional. Then the next sentence, that is, if I had more time, I would prepare better for the ЗНО exams. And that is second conditional, of course. And the last one, so it's not hard to guess that that is the third type. And the structure is, if I had attended all English classes, I wouldn't have missed that grammar topic. So let's go on. Look at the slide. Read the sentences once again. You can take a screenshot because we will go to some practice very, very soon. Okay, and so now here on this slide, you can see 3 columns. You can see the type of conditional sentence, then you can see the grammar structure, the tenses which we use, and you can see the meaning. Now we will try to match. We will try to match the type of conditional sentence with its grammar structure and with its meaning. For example, so let's start with conditional zero. So grammar structure, that is B. We use if in both parts of the sentence. We use present simple in both parts of the sentence. We use present simple in the parts with if and in the result clause. And the meaning, that is 1. So we talk about general truth or laws of nature. Now please try to remember everything you know about conditional sentences. You can also look at the examples from the previous slide if you have taken a screenshot. And let's try to match number 2, 3, and 4. So conditional 1. What is the grammar structure and what is the meaning? Okay, I can see some answers. So 2, that is C, right? If plus present simple, and we will use will in the second part. And the meaning, that is number 2. Present or and future real situations. Good, conditional number 2. So that is letter D. If plus past simple and would in the result part. And the meaning, that is 4. Present or future unreal situation, or we can say an imaginary situation. And then conditional 3. So we have only the last option left, that is A, if plus past perfect, and would, have, and the third form of the verb in the result clause. And the meaning, that is obviously 3, past unreal situation. Okay, so let's go on, let's sum up. Now we know a lot about conditionals, so let's sum all the information up. So, zero conditional. We use zero conditional when we talk about things which are always true, always or generally true. So we can say that we speak about some general truth or some laws of nature. And we also call it factual conditional. And let's look at some examples. Yeah, I can see some examples in the chat. Right, you are. If you heat the water, it boils. Yeah, on the slide you can see one more example. If the sun shines, snow melts. Or when I come to my granny, she usually cooks borscht. Or if you have a headache, take some painkillers. So we talk about something that is always true. So we can say that every time this condition happens, every time we have the same result. So every time when the sun shines, snow melts. Every time when I come to my granny, she cooks borscht. And every time when you have a headache, you should take some painkillers. So that is something that is always true. Да, тобто ми говоримо про щось, що завжди є правдивим. Тобто кожного разу, коли ми маємо таку умову, ми маємо той самий результат. Кожного разу, коли світить сонце, сніг тане. Кожного разу, коли я приїжджаю до бабусі, вона готує борщ. Кожного разу, коли в тебе болить голова, приймай знеболююче. And you can see that instead of if, we can use when, so that is possible. Також можливо в zero conditional замість if використати when. And in the second part, in the result part, we use present simple or we can use imperatives. Yeah, like in the third sentence, if you have a headache, take some painkillers. So that is an imperative. The next one, that is fourth conditional. It is called real conditional or possible. And we talk about some possible future or present situations. If it rains tomorrow, we won't go on a picnic. If you don't wear warm clothes, you may get a cold. Yeah, so you can see that it's not a fact, it's not 100% true, but it is very possible. So it's very likely to happen in the future. Тут ми говоримо вже не про факти, не про щось, що завжди є правдивим, а про якусь конкретну ситуацію і про те, що є ймовірним. Тобто, якщо піде дощ, ми не підемо на пікнік. Це дуже ймовірно, це може трапитись, але це не є фактом. Бо ми можемо сказати, якщо ти не вдягнеш теплий одяг, ти можеш змерзнути. Також ймовірно, що ти змерзнеш, але це не 100% факт. Тобто ти можеш не змерзнути, можуть бути різні обставини. And so what about the grammar part? We use present simple in the if clause, and we use future simple, so we use will in the result clause. And also, that is here it's possible to use modals. We can also use will, or we can use may or can. You may get a cold, or you can get a cold. The next one is second conditional. And second conditional is also called improbable or unreal conditional. So we talk about present or future situations which are hypothetical or unlikely to happen. For example, if I won $1 million, I would buy a flat. Or if Anne didn't study so much, she could come to the party tonight. Тобто тут ми говоримо про щось, що є малоймовірним, навіть нереальним в теперішньому часі або в майбутньому. Наприклад, якби я виграла $1 мільйон, я купила б квартиру. Але шанс того, що це відбудеться, дуже низький, дуже невисокий. Тобто ми кажемо, що це не... So it's improbable. Тобто мала ймовірність того, що це все ж таки трапиться. А в другому реченні, якби Анна не вчилась так багато, вона змогла б піти на вечірку. Але вона багато вчиться, і тому, швидше за все, вона не піде. Тобто тут ми гіпотетично уявляємо, що було б, якби Анна не вчилась багато. Але вона вчиться багато, тому ця ситуація є нереальною. Yeah, and very often, when we use second conditional, we have such examples as, if I were you, I would do something. And that is impossible, so you can't be another person. So it's just a hypothetical situation about present or about future. And the last one, that is third conditional. And we call it also impossible conditional. And here we talk about hypothetical situations, but in the past. And very often we can use it to talk about regret about the past. So if you'd, also here it means if you hadn't phoned me yesterday, I would have helped you. Yeah, so it's about the past. But you didn't call me yesterday and I didn't help you. So that is unreal. That didn't happen in the past. Or we can say, if I had followed my dreams, I would have become an artist, but I didn't. Тут ми говоримо вже про минуле. Ми уявляємо, що було б, якби в минулому ситуація змінилася, якби в минулому трапилось щось інше. Наприклад, якби ти мені вчора зателефонував, я би тобі допомогла. Але ми розуміємо, що людина не зателефонувала і не змогла отримати допомогу. Or the second example. Якби я слідувала своїм мріям, я стала би художницею. Але цього не відбулось в минулому. So that is impossible to change. So here you can see all necessary information about conditionals. You can also scan the QR code and you will see a table like with all the details. So if you need, you can scan this QR code and you will get like all information about all main 4 types of conditional sentences. So you can save it. And now let's have some practice. So your task will be to choose the correct alternative. So we will try to think what type of conditional sentence it is and what grammar we need to use. So we will start with the first one. I'm waiting for your answers to the chat, and we will do all numbers one by one. But when you put your answers to the chat, please also put the number, yeah, because it will be difficult for me to understand what number it refers to. So let's look at the first one. If we make an effort to reduce global warming, the effect will be devastating. So in the second part, we have will. The effects will be devastating. So if we have will, then it will be the first type of conditional sentences. So then what do we choose? And of course, that is don't. Yeah, so that is first conditional, that is real or possible conditional. Number 2, more and more dolphins die if you don't stop polluting the sea. So in the if part, we have present simple. So if we have present simple after if, it can be zero conditional when we speak about facts, or it can be first conditional when we speak about some possible situations in the present or in the future. Okay, so once again, in the first sentence, ще раз, чому в першому реченні ми використали don't? Ми бачимо, що в другій частині в нас є will. Якщо ми використовуємо will в частині з результатом, значить це перший тип умовних речень. В першому типі умовних речень після if ми використовуємо present simple. So in number 2, we need to use will, yes? and that is also first conditional. So again, we speak about something that can happen in the future, something that is possible. And then after if, we use present simple, and if in the result part, we use will. So that is the same structure as in the first sentence. So then in number 3, we have would. Would you still have played? Okay, so if we have would you still have played? Then it's about the past, yes? So then what do we need to choose in the second part? After if. Так, в третьому номері ми говоримо про минуле. У нас конструкція would plus have plus the third form of the verb. Then in the if part we need to use past simple. If you had known you'd lose. Чи взяв би ти участь в змаганні, якби ти знав, що не переможеш, або якби ти знав, що програєш. Тобто це it's third conditional, третій тип умовних речень. Ми говоримо про нереальну ситуацію в минулому, про те, що ми не можемо змінити в минулому. Тоді після if ми використовуємо past perfect, had і третя форма дієслова. І в частині з результатом ми використовуємо would plus have plus the third form. Number 4. If we choose the weather forecast, we wouldn't have set sail this morning. So here again we have we wouldn't have set. Wouldn't plus have plus the third form. And that is had listened. Yeah, if we had listened to the weather forecast, we wouldn't have set sail this morning. Again, we are talking about something that is impossible in the past, a hypothetical situation about the past. Якби ми послухали прогноз погоди, ми не відправились би в плавання вранці, але ми не послухали і ми відправились. Тобто це гіпотетична ситуація про минуле. Number 5. What do we choose? Wouldn't or won't? And let's look what we have in the second part, in the if part. If it weren't for the factory. So we have here past simple. Yeah, if after if we use past simple, then in the result part we need to use wouldn't. Yeah, so and that is second conditional. Yeah, that is an improbable or impossible situation in the present or in the future. Тобто ми уявляємо, що було б, якби зараз ситуація була б інакша. Озеро не було б таким засміченим, якби не завод. And number 6. So here again we have hadn't arrived. Hadn't arrived, that is past perfect. So in the if part we have past perfect. And what will we have in the result part? That is might have drowned. Yeah, so you can see that we can use might or we can use would. So that will be the same. We can say we would have drowned, ми б втонули, or we can say we might have drowned, ми могли б втонути. Yeah, so in the result part, when we use a third conditional, we can use would, might, or could. Okay, and let's look which modals we can use in conditionals. So the main clauses with real conditional tenses can have modal verbs. So real conditional tenses, these are zero and first. So in zero and first conditional, in the result part, we can use will, or we can use present simple, and we also can use modals like can or may. В частині результату в реальних умовних реченнях, тобто це zero і first conditional, ми також можемо використати can або may. So we can say, if I have money, I can buy it. Or we can say, if I have money, I will buy it. Or also we can use may. If I have money, I may buy it. And if we speak about unreal conditionals, that is conditional 2 and 3, we can use would, or we can use could or might. It is possible to say, if I had money, I could buy it. Or we can say, if I had money, I would be able to buy it. The next example, if I had money, I might have bought it. Or we can say, if I had money, I would have bought it. So in real conditionals, we can use such modals as can and may. In unreal conditionals, we can use could and might. And a very typical mistake, a very common one. So please remember that we don't use will, we don't use would in the same part with if. So in the if clause, we don't use will. Please remember that and never do that. So we can use will or would only in the main clause, but never in the same part with if. Да, запам'ятайте, будь ласка, ніколи так не робіть, ніколи ми не ставимо will і would в ту ж саму частину з if. Ми можемо використати will, would для частини з результатом, але після if ми не можемо використати. And look at 2 more sentences and please put to the chat. What do you think? Are the sentences correct or not? I'd give Julia the money if she asked me. Or if she asked me, I'd give her the money. So are the sentences correct or not? I'm waiting for your ideas. I'd give. So here, I'd, it means I would. Yeah, we can shorten would and we can say I'd. I would give Julia the money if she asked me. Or if she asked me, I would give her the money. So are they correct? And yes, they are. So the 2 clauses can come in any order. We can start the sentence with the if clause, or we can start the sentence with the result clause. It doesn't change the meaning, so both options are correct. Тобто ми можемо починати умовне речення з будь-якої частини. Ми можемо переставляти частини умовного речення місцями. Ми можемо почати з частини з if і потім сказати про результат, або ми можемо почати з результату і далі тоді розказати про умову. But please pay attention to the comma. Yeah? So if we start with the result clause, then we don't need a comma before if. But if we start with the if clause, we need to use a comma after it. Але тут уважно з комами, це буде помилкою, якщо неправильно вжити або не вжити кому в умовних реченнях. Якщо ми починаємо з частини результату, тоді перед if ми кому не ставимо. Якщо ми починаємо з частини умови, з частини з if, тоді після неї нам потрібно поставити кому. Please remember this. So 2 more sentences. Are these sentences correct or not? If he was a millionaire, Jane would marry him. If I were a millionaire, I would donate all of money to charity. So are both of them correct? So waiting for your ideas. Yeah, so these examples are tricky a little bit because it might be a little bit confusing. It might seem like a mistake, but it's not. Actually, both the sentences are correct. And here, so we have an interesting rule. In second conditional, we can use both was and were for I, he, she, it. So in second conditional sentences, it is okay to say if I were, or if he were, or if she were. So in the first sentence here, we can say if I was a millionaire, or we can say if I were a millionaire. That is the same. And in the second, in B sentence, we can say if I was a millionaire, or if I was, or if I were a millionaire. В другому типі умовних речень після I, he, she, it можемо використати was і можемо також використати were. Це не буде помилкою, обидва варіанти є правильними. And two more sentences. So are these sentences correct? If someone emails her, she replies straight away. And she would have replied to you if you had texted her in advance. Well, what about these sentences? Are they correct or not? So be very attentive. Pay attention to some details. Yeah, we have discussed it with you already. And yeah, so the first sentence is correct. And the second one is not. So what is the problem? And here, so you say that both are correct, but no, we have a mistake in B, and that is this comma. Yeah, so once again, please remember that in written English, in the conditional, if the conditional clause comes first, you put a comma between it and the main clause. But you don't use a comma if the main clause comes first. Тобто, ще раз, якщо ми починаємо з частини з if, тоді ми ставимо кому перед головною частиною, перед частиною з результатом. Якщо ми починаємо з результату, тоді перед if ми не ставимо кому. Будь ласка, запам'ятайте це, це дуже-дуже важливо. So, I can see some questions in the chat. He were, так правильно? Yes, we can say he were. For example, if he were a millionaire. And we can use it in second conditional. Yeah, so we can't use that in just regular past simple sentences, but we can use if he were or if she were in second conditional sentences. And he was, that is also okay. Yes, we can say if I were a millionaire or if I was a millionaire. So both variants are correct. Practice. So let's do this task together with you. So you will need to read the sentences and you need to use the verbs in the brackets in the correct form. So you need to think which conditional sentence it is, and then you need to remember which tenses we use in them. I will be waiting for your ideas, for your answers to the chat, and we will start with the first sentence. So let's read it together. I absolutely love traveling. When I enough money, I abroad. I do it a few times a year. So what can help us here? We can see when. Yes. So only in one type of conditional sentences we can use when instead of if. And also the last sentence can help us. It says I do it a few times a year. So we speak about a regular action. So then what type of conditional sentence it is? You can put your answers to the chat and you can also put what type of conditional sentence it is. And in number 1 we will have when I have enough money, I go abroad. So that is zero conditional. So once again, it's a fact about me. So every time when I have money, every time I go abroad. So always when this condition is fulfilled, we have this result, I go abroad. Тут ми використовуємо zero conditional, тому що це, можна сказати, факт про цю людину, яка Це говорить або це пише. Тобто кожного разу, коли в мене достатньо грошей, я їду за кордон. So we use present simple in the if part, and we use present simple in the second part, in the result part. І також ми пам'ятаємо, що в Zero Conditional ми використовуємо present simple в обох частинах, або ми можемо використати також модальні дієслова can, may. І замість if ми можемо використати when. So here we can say when I have enough money or if I have enough money. Number 2. Nobody here speaks English. Too bad, Alex isn't with us. If he, here, he, translate for us. So we have a situation in the present. Yeah? So here, nobody speaks English. And Alex is not with us. But we can imagine that if he were, or if he was here, he could translate for us. So we imagine that is an unreal situation in the present. We use second conditional. And so we imagine a situation in the present which is not real. Тут ми уявляємо, що було. Якби Алекс був з нами, він міг би допомогти, він міг би перекласти, але його зараз з нами немає, і ми лише уявляємо цю ситуацію. And in the if clause, it's possible to use if he was or if he were here. Yeah, so that would be the same. And in the result clause, we can use would, or we can use could, or also might. Да, пам'ятаємо, що в частині з результатом в second conditional ми можемо використати не лише would, а також ми можемо використати could або might. Те ж саме third conditional. So number 3. Also, read all 3 sentences here. Instead, I got a B. I really should have studied more. So let's think if it's about present or if it's about past. Yes, I can see some correct answers. Good. I would have got an A if I had remembered all those dates. It's third conditional, and we talk about a hypothetical, unreal situation in the past which we can't change. Тут ми використовуємо third conditional, говоримо про нереальну ситуацію в минулому, тому що в нас тут є продовження. Instead, I got a B. Got – це минулий час. Я отримав бал B, а не A. І далі ми говоримо I really should have studied more. Мені дійсно варто було б в минулому вчитись більше. Тобто завдяки цим реченням ми розуміємо, що це про минуле. Людина шкодує про минуле і каже, що а от якби раніше я вчився, то тоді запам'ятав би всі дати і отримав би хорошу оцінку. Але це було в минулому, і ми вже не можемо змінити цю ситуацію. Number 4. If he, a car, it's difficult for him to get to work on weekdays. Okay, yeah, you say that number 4, that is second conditional. Okay. Right. If he didn't have a car, it would be difficult for him to get to work on weekdays. Якби у нього не було машини, йому було б важко діставатись до роботи. Але машина в нього є, тому це лише гіпотетична ситуація про теперішнє. So it's an imaginary situation, it is not real. And number 5. Stop asking me what Tom bought you for your birthday. Even if I what he bought you, I it anyway. And here we want to say, хватить питати мене про те, що Том подарує тобі на день народження. Навіть якби я знала, я би не сказала тобі. Yes, and that is right. So even if I knew, I wouldn't tell it anyway. But I don't know. It's second conditional. Навіть якби я знала, я би тобі не сказала. So it's a hypothetical, it's an unreal or imaginary situation about the present. Ми уявляємо цю ситуацію, це нереальна або уявна ситуація, що стосується теперішнього. Okay? So let's go on. And some more practice. So this task will be easier for you because you have options which you can choose from. And again, so let's start with the first one. Please read all the parts attentively and look at the options, look at the answers. And I'm waiting for your ideas to the chat, as always. So put the number of the sentence and the letter A, B, C, or D. So the first one. How do I turn the machine off when I finish? If you press this button, it's working. Yeah, so we can say that it's a fact, and every time you press this button, every time the machine T stops working, yeah, because it's a fact. So every time you press, кожного разу, коли ми натискаємо на цю кнопку, машина перестає працювати. Це факт, so that is zero conditional, and we use present simple in the if clause, and we use present simple in the result clause. Number 2. Rainforests will continue to disappear if we cutting down trees. So we have will, yes, we have will in the result clause. So what do we need to have in the if clause then? So what type of conditional sentence is it? Yes, and it is A. Yes, you are right. Rainforests will continue to disappear if we don't stop cutting down trees. So we talk about a possible situation in the future, and we use first conditional, we use present simple in the if clause, and we use will in the result clause. Number 3. If he had asked you. And it is C. Would you have helped? Would you have helped if your friend, would you have helped your friend if he asked you to? It's second conditional, and we use past simple in the if clause. Oh, I'm sorry, that is a third conditional, yes, and we use past perfect in the if clause, and we use would have and the third form of the verb in the result clause. And it's a hypothetical imaginary situation about the past. Ти би допоміг своєму другу, якби він тебе спитав? Тоді, в минулому. Number 4. In 4 we use be. The students would have arrived at the theater on time if they had taken the train. But they didn't. Again, it is third conditional. It's a hypothetical imaginary situation about the past. Number 5. Let's look what we have in the if clause. If the head teacher organized it, so we have past simple. And so if after if we have past simple, then what type of conditional sentence we have? And it's A, of course, A. Our school could collect money for flood victims if the head teacher organized it. So it's an imaginary situation about the present. Again, so we can use would in the result part, or we can use could or might. Це другий тип умовного речення. Ми використовуємо past simple в частині з if, а в частині з результатом ми можемо використати would або could. І також можемо використати might. And the last one. Here, drought, it's засуха. And so you remember that after if we don't use will or would, so it's not C, it's not B. It's not B because we don't have would or could have and the third form of the verb. So that is A, if there is a drought. Okay, good, thank you. So that was a good practice. I can see a lot of correct answers in the chat. That is wonderful. So let's go on. So we have discussed with you. I told you that sometimes we can use some other words instead of if. For example, in zero conditional, we can use when instead of if, but there are also some other words, some other examples. And first of all, it is unless. So we can use unless in conditional sentences instead of if. And it has a negative meaning. Unless means if not. Let's look at the example. We will go on a picnic unless it rains. And it is the same. We can paraphrase it. And we can say, we will go on a picnic if it doesn't rain. У нас є слово unless, яке може використовуватись замість if, але воно має негативне значення. Unless означає якщо, ні. І в нас є два приклади. We will go on a picnic unless it rains. Ми підемо на пікнік, якщо не буде дощу. Тобто і перше, і друге речення тут означає одне й те ж саме. And please also be careful. Remember that unless already has a negative meaning. So usually we don't use a negative sentence after it. After unless, we use a positive sentence. We say unless it rains. Also, we can use such words as provided, providing that, as long as, on condition that. And we can use them with real conditionals. So it's conditional 0 and 1. And their meaning is very, very similar to if. Ці слова provided, providing that, as long as, on condition that, ми також можемо використовувати замість if в zero and first conditional. They can be translated as при умові. Їх значення дуже-дуже близьке до значення if. And we can say, I'll pass the test providing I answer at least 80 out of 100 questions right. Or we can say, I'll pass the test only if I answer at least 80 out of 100 questions right. And we can use supposing. Suppose, let's say imagine, with hypothetical conditionals, with unreal conditionals. They are number 2 and 3. Ці слова можемо використовувати з другим і третім типом умовних речень, і їх значення також дуже близьке до if. Тобто ми можемо сказати «уявімо». For example, supposing you became a president, what would you do? Уявімо, що ти став президентом. Що би ти робив? And we can say if you become a president. We can say supposing you became a president or if you became a president. So the meaning is almost the same. And also we can use what if we have a question with a conditional. And what if, it's a short version of what will happen if, what would happen if, what would have happened if. So we can shorten this part, we can make it shorter, and we can just use what if. We can say, what if they are late? It will be the same as if we say, what will happen if they are late? Or we can say, what if you'd missed your flight? And it will be the same as what would have happened if you'd missed your flight. And there are also some other structures. So let's have a look at them. We can also use in case. And we can use in case to talk about future possibilities or precautions. Usually we use it when we want to prevent a situation in the future from happening. Let's look at some examples and it will be more understandable. So 2 sentences here. I'll take an umbrella in case it rains. And I'll take an umbrella if it rains. So, and their meaning is not the same. Коли ми говорили про попередні фрази і слова, які ми можемо використати замість if, ми казали, що значення, в принципі, не буде змінюватись. Але якщо ми використовуємо in case, тоді значення буде усе ж таки інакше, воно буде відрізнятись від по значенню від такого самого речення з if. Структура залишається те ж сама, а значення трошки змінюється. So we use in case to talk about something we want to prevent. Ми використовуємо in case, коли говоримо, що хочемо уникнути чогось в майбутньому. For example, let's look at the first picture. So the sentence for the first picture is, I'll take an umbrella in case it rains. So we can say that probably it's not raining and it might not rain, but anyway, I will take an umbrella and it will help me not to get wet. Ми бачимо на першому малюнку, що в принципі дощ не йде, але на всяк випадок я усе ж таки візьму парасольку, щоб не намокнути. В той час, як ми використовуємо if, коли говоримо, що якщо щось трапиться, то тоді я щось зроблю. Тобто ми не намагаємось уникнути цієї ситуації, а реагуємо вже на ситуацію. So, the second sentence is for the second picture. I'll take an umbrella if it rains. Якщо вже піде дощ, то тоді я візьму парасольку. Also, we can use such a structure as imperative, plus or otherwise. And we use it for something, to say that something will happen if someone doesn't do as you say. For example, leave now, otherwise you'll get caught in the rain. Іди зараз, а то попадеш під дощ. And that will be the same if we say, if you don't leave now, you'll get caught in the rain. And after otherwise in this structure, we need to use future simple. Okay. And so let's practice. And let's try to use the most suitable word. Let's start with the first one. And let's think which word is more logical here. I'll join you at the party, providing or unless I work late. So what is more logical here? I'll join you at the party, I work late. So providing, it has a very similar meaning to if, and unless means if not. So what is more logical here? And yeah, sure, it's unless. Yeah, so it means if not. Я приєднаюсь до вечірки, якщо не буду працювати пізно. So we can rephrase the sentence and we can say, I'll join you at the party if I don't work late. Good. Let's move on. Number 2. My parents allow me to go out late. I text them where I am. So first of all, let's think what type of conditional sentence it is in number 2. So we have present simple in the result part, and we have present simple in the condition part. Then we will use as long as. Yeah. So the meaning of as long as is very similar to the meaning of if. And once again, so let's revise. We use such words as provided, providing that, as long as, on condition that, in real conditionals. Да, тобто, якщо в нас real conditionals – це zero або first, тоді ми можемо використати замість if provided, providing that, as long as, on condition that. А такі слова, як supposed, supposing, let's say and imagine, we use in unreal conditionals. Да? А supposing ми можемо використати вже в другому, третьому типі умовних речень, в нереальних. So, number 3. You've got to start studying, you'll fail all those exams. So, number 3 is interesting, it is tricky, and you need to be very attentive. So, let's think, is it possible to use if in number 3? And it is impossible to use here if. We use or. Why? So first of all, because we have will in this part. So we can't use if and will together in one clause. Secondly, look at the comma. Pay attention. We have a comma. So, да, якби в нас була частина з if далі, тоді кому ми не поставили б перед нею. Тому що коли ми починаємо з частини результату, і далі говоримо про умову, ми не ставимо кому перед if. І також після if ми не можемо використати will. Тому тут однозначно відповідь or. 4. It's okay. We can get the bus. We miss the train. So this one is also interesting. Waiting for some more answers. If or in case? And, so this one is challenging. I can see it. And here we use if. Yeah, so it says, it's okay, we can get the bus if we miss the train, so don't worry. If it happens, we will have another option. Да, тут люди себе заспокоюють, вони, напевно, поспішають, запізнюються, і вони кажуть, ну нічого страшного, якщо ми можемо поїхати на автобусі, якщо пропустимо поїзд. Да, тут ми використовуємо if. In case мало б інше значення. In case мало б значення, щоб цього не сталося. Да, тоді речення означало б, ми можемо поїхати на автобусі, для того, щоб не пропустити поїзд. And yeah, so it's not logical in this sentence. So we use in case when we want to prevent something from happening in the future. And number 5. Number 5, that is supposing. Yeah, because we use supposing, supposed, let's say, and imagine in unreal conditionals, number 2 and number 3. And provided that it's for real conditionals 0 and 1. Number 6. I wouldn't have lost the game if or unless I'd trained more. Here, I'd trained, it means I had trained. So we can shorten, we can say I had trained more, or we can say I'd trained more. Here, of course, it is if, yeah, because unless is not logical in terms of meaning here. So we say, я би не програв гру, якби більше тренувався. Unless нам не підходить по значенню, ми не скажемо, що я не програв би гру, якби не тренувався. Yeah, so it's not logical. Unless has a negative meaning. It means if not. And number 7, the last one here. We're running late, let's get a taxi. In case or otherwise. So number 7 is a bit challenging, yeah, because again, you need to think about the meaning and also pay attention to the grammar. Yeah, so some people say in case, some people say otherwise, and the correct answer is in case. So first of all, it is suitable in terms of the meaning here. Ми запізнюємось, давай візьмемо таксі, щоб не пропустити поїзд. Ми хочемо уникнути цієї ситуації, ми не хочемо пропускати поїзд, тому ми використовуємо in case. Otherwise can't be used here because after otherwise we need to use will. Після otherwise нам потрібно використати було б will. Тут в нас немає will, тут в нас просто present simple, so that's why in case is the right answer. And one more practice task, and let's do it very, very fast because I also want to have some time to do a listening task with you. So let's start with the first one. I'll just give you a couple of seconds to do that, and then we'll discuss which option is correct and why. But let's try to do it very, very quickly. Yeah, so in number one, we have past perfect. Suppose the turtle had eaten that plastic bag. So if we have past perfect, then we speak about a hypothetical situation in the past. So we will choose C, that is third conditional. Well done. Let's go to number two. Don't call me. There is an emergency. Yeah, and then translation will be не телефонуй мені, якщо це не терміново. And it is unless, yeah, if it's not emergency. So we can say don't call me unless there is an emergency, or we can say don't call me if there is no emergency. Yeah, in terms of the meaning, the unless is logical and correct here. Number three. So we have won't stop complaining unless the power plant is closed down. So it's first conditional. We have future simple, we have will, yes, and in the condition, in the part with condition, we have present simple. Good, and number four. Supposing you found yourself. So we can say supposing, or we can use here if. And the answer is B. What would you do? Yeah, so that's a hypothetical imaginary situation about the present. Уявімо, що ти в лісі. Що ти робив би? Okay, good. So thanks. And let's also talk about some listening with you today. So let's revise which parts. So what tasks we have in the listening section. So we have 3 tasks, and overall we have 16 questions. And we will need about 30 minutes to do the listening part. So the first task, and questions from 1 to 6, it's a multiple choice task. So you will see 6 situations, so for numbers 1, 2, and 3, you will see 3 pictures, and you will see a question, and your task will be to listen to a short recording for every question and choose the correct answer. After that, you will have 3 more questions, and you will have not pictures, but you will have text. You will have some text options to choose from. So in task 1, you will have 6 small texts or 6 small dialogues. Тобто, в першому завданні це окреме аудіо коротеньке на кожне запитання. Then we will have task 2, questions from 7 to 11, and that is a true-false task. So usually it's one text, usually it's an interview or a dialogue, and you will need to listen to it and choose whether the statements are true or false according to the information in the audio. And the last one, that is task 3, it's one more multiple choice task. But this time you will listen to one big text. Again, it can be a text, or it can be a dialogue, or an interview. And then, according to the information in the audio, you will need to choose the correct answer, A, B, or C. And today we will practice true-false task with you. And please remember that we listen 2 times. Every audio we listen 2 times. So usually task number 2 is an interview. So minimum 2 people will be talking. So you need to pay attention who says what. And sometimes the questions can be not in the same order as in the audio. Сьогодні поговоримо про завдання номер 2, True-False. Тут важливо пам'ятати, ми завжди слухаємо 2 рази. Найчастіше друге завдання в форматі інтерв'ю або розмови. Тобто нам потрібно слухати, хто що говорить, тому що нам потрібно буде вибрати правильну відповідь, true або false, говорячи про якогось з цих спікерів. Тобто нам також важливо знати, хто про що говорить. І іноді інформація може бути не в тому порядку в аудіо, в якому вона подана в завданні. And so, some tips how to complete tasks like that. So, first of all, read the questions and predict the content, like the topic of the recording. Find the keywords. So, you will have 20 seconds for that. You will be given 20 seconds to look through the sentences. Please do it. Please do that very, very attentively. It will really, really help you. Then, listen to the information in the recording. So, don't rely on your own knowledge. Ми уважно слухаємо інформацію в тексті, ми не довіряємо власним знанням з цієї теми, нам важливо вибрати відповіді згідно з текстом, згідно з аудіо. While you are listening for the second time, check yourself. So try to complete the task while you are listening for the first time, and then when you listen for the second time, you will check yourself. Також пробуйте виконати це завдання, коли ви вперше слухаєте, а коли слухаєте вдруге, ви зможете себе перевірити або знайти підтвердження чи спростування своїх відповідей. Also, pay attention to vocabulary paraphrases, synonyms, grammar paraphrases. And answer all the questions, even if you are not sure. Також ми відповідаємо і заповнюємо бланк відповідей на всі запитання. Навіть якщо ви не впевнені у відповіді, є шанс, що ви вгадаєте, не залишаємо пустих місць в бланку. So let's start. So let's practice. We will listen to an audio with you, and your task will be to mark the statements as true or false. So I will start the audio, and you will have some time to read the sentences. So please do that very, very attentively.
Track 10. Look at the 5 statements for this task. You will hear an interview with Jane Goodall, a famous primatologist and anthropologist. Decide if each statement is true or false. For statements 1 to 5, choose T if the statement is true according to the text, and F if it is false. Now you will have 20 seconds to look at the questions for Task 10. Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully. You will hear the recording twice. Please welcome the world's most famous primatologist, Jane Goodall. It's lovely to have you here, Jane. You travel 300 days a year. That's an incredible schedule.
It's actually stupid.
So why do you do it?
When you're my age, there's less time left.
That sense of urgency aside, how do you stay motivated?
Every day I see children. I think about how we've harmed the earth since I was their age. When I began to work, the forest stretched right across Africa. Now, it covers fragmented patches, and it's the same all over the world.
Don't you get depressed?
Of course, but that means I have to fight even harder. You can't do anything alone, so it's about finding people who understand that money is not everything. I agree that we need money to live, but things go wrong when we live just for money.
Working with youth is a major focus for you. Why?
We could give away everything to save a forest or a species, but if the next generation isn't going to look after it, there's no point. And, unfortunately, the next generation in the Western world is living in an increasingly virtual world.
Have any children of this incoming generation inspired you?
Many of them are amazing. I've seen children who visited a patch of land in Texas and removed the exotic plants, replaced them with local species, and gradually restored the area to prairie status, with bees, birds, and butterflies. I've seen kids clean up a stream, not just by picking up rubbish, but by going upstream, finding out what was polluting the water, and learning how to write letters to the polluters and to legislators.
You have a lot of empathy for people and animals. You were one of the first to talk about the personalities and feelings that animals have.
I grew up knowing that. When I got to the University of Cambridge in 1962, I was told I was doing it all wrong. I gave the chimps names, not numbers. And I shouldn't have talked about personalities, emotions, or minds that could solve problems in chimps. But they claimed that those qualities were unique to human beings. But I had this teacher in childhood who taught me that for all their scientific know-how, the professors were wrong, and that was my dog.
How is the 82-year-old you different from that young woman 56 years ago at the beginning of your career?
Hopefully, I'm a little bit wiser and have used my experience.
What surprised you most about the way the world has...
Good, so
Now listen again.
we won't listen again, because we don't have enough time for that. But when you have your test, you will listen twice. And now I'm waiting for your answers to the chat. So I can see answers for 2 and 3, but let's start with the first one. So is it true or false according to the information in this recording? The area covered by forest has become smaller since Jane was a child.
Track 10. Look at the 5 statements for this task.
Okay, and it is true. Yes, right, you are. And in the audio, so the key words, the key phrase is has become smaller. Yeah, so the area covered by forest has become smaller. And in the audio, we hear, now it covers fragmented patches. Тобто раніше було багато лісу, зараз закриває лише маленькі території. So patches, it means like small territories. So it's a paraphrase for has become smaller. So number 2, yeah, I can see that you say number 2 is false. That is right. Because in the audio, she says, I agree that we need money. Yeah, so she doesn't say that we don't need money. Number 3, it's false. Yeah, because in the audio, in the sentence, we have modern kids never clean up rubbish. And in the audio, she gives some examples when kids do some good things for the environment. They helped to clean polluted areas, polluted water. So we can't say that modern kids never clean up. Number 4 is also false, yes, because she says the opposite. She says that the professors at the university told her that animals don't have personalities and feelings, that these things are unique to human beings only. But it was her dog who convinced her that it's not right. And number 5, it is true, yes, for 56 years. And in the audio, they said 56 years ago. Okay, good. So almost all correct answers. Thank you. And so some useful links for you. So to complete listening tasks successfully, practice is important. So listen. To improve your listening skills, you need to listen. And you can listen to the podcasts. So there is a link, you can scan this code, and that's a good idea to listen to TED Talks, for example. Or there are some podcasts which are called Listen a Minute. So here we have short podcasts which are rather simple, and it's a good way to start practicing improving your listening skills. Or an podcast. Yeah, also some nice podcasts are there. коли ви тренуєтесь, коли ви розвиваєте навички слухання, спробуйте спочатку послухати без субтитрів, без тексту, спробуйте вловити, про що вони говорять, і навіть після того, як ви вперше послухаєте, можете собі переказати, про що це було, що ви змогли вловити. Після цього вже можна послухати з субтитрами і перевірити себе, і подивитись, що ще ви можете зрозуміти з цього аудіо. Тобто намагайтесь спочатку слухати без субтитрів, а потім, коли слухаєте вдруге, можете вже себе перевірити. And while learning the words, pay attention to synonyms and word family. It can really help you when you complete your reading or listening tasks. Because very often we have synonyms, we have paraphrases. Тобто, коли вчите нові слова, вчіть не лише переклад, а також дивіться на синоніми, антоніми і однокорінні слова. Це також дуже допоможе в різних завданнях на ЗНО. And some tricky questions for us, and we will go and relax. So, number 1. Is the situation in zero conditional always true? Yes or no? And of course that is yes, because zero conditional is a factual conditional, so we talk about facts. It is something that is always true. Number 2. Is the situation in second conditional imagined? And it's also yes. So when we use second conditional, we speak about some improbable or some unreal situations in the present. Do we use will in if clauses in first conditional? So do we use will in the if clause? And surely no. And do we use past perfect in third conditional? Yes, we do. Okay. So thank you. Thanks a lot for your work. So I saw so many correct answers in the chat. That makes me happy. Thanks a lot. So I wish you to have a good week and see you next Monday. Goodbye.